Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. That's based on what time this message reaches you. I'm here to share with you a very solemn mission that we are to engage in. Please listen to the video to the very end, as this is very important. I'm introducing a mission that God has been impressing on our hearts for quite a long time. We have even sort of failed to do it based on the time that was allocated, and we postponed it a couple of times. But at the moment, we can't continue to postpone this work. That's a mission to Scotland. What does the mission entail? It is to distribute works of the hour, the great controversy, the Ministry of Healing, and we've got a very special health magazine that God has provided to us, which has opened many hearts to the sense of how much they need the gospel. And that's just a magazine promoting the 8 laws of health and opening the scientific understanding of what the gospel gives in Genesis 1-3, Daniel chapter 1, and any such kindred scriptures. So as such, we have got a very important mission to go to Scotland. Yes, we have been to Scotland once. We have been to other countries. We have been to Ireland, particularly, but in the British Isles. It does appear from the reports that we keep hearing that the rest of the UK and even the Republic of Ireland, the British Isles, have been receiving quite a lot of attention on the streets, and people are being ministered to, and a lot of the brethren who have been set aside by God to minister are ministering in so many places at different rates. But nonetheless, the work is moving forward. But very little of that work is happening in Scotland. So if you were wondering why Scotland, that's the exact reason why we are going to Scotland. There is a few brethren who are working there, but they're overstretched. There is a gap that the Lord has been impressing upon us. We have had a Macedonian call. Brethren have been saying, come over to Scotland and help us. And as such, we are answering to that. You could draw a contrast between Scotland maybe and the Republic of Ireland. We went to the Republic of Ireland when Pope Francis came down there, and our presence and influence created a ministry which has grown and is very big in its own right, Discovered Truth. And Discovered Truth is covering most of the churches in both the Republic and Northern Ireland, and they are doing a very wonderful work. And so that gap has been plugged, and we know quite a few brethren in Scotland who are doing this work, but a bit outnumbered, a bit thin on the ground, and hence we're thinking it will be good for us to go up there and unite our forces and go and minister. And that's the reason why we are going to Scotland. But another reason is there are also elements right on the ground who are doing a work of impeding that work of the third angel. And it is Sister White who says that I mean, in the time of a crisis, which is a crisis indeed for the work of finishing the gospel, in the time of crisis, she wrote in Testimonies, Volume 3, page 280, paragraph 3, she says, if God abhors one sin above another, of which his people are guilty, it is doing nothing in case of an emergency. indifference and neutrality in a religious crisis is regarded of God as a grievous crime and equal to the very worst type of hostility against God. So Sister White is saying here, if God hates any sin above another, if he were to rank any sin above the other, it is for our silence, of our silence in the time of crisis in his work. And there is indeed a crisis in his work. This crisis obviously extends to other countries, but we are looking at our sphere of influence, which is the British Isles, which is our immediate Jerusalem, so to speak. And she says, God abhors it above any other, and he equates it to the as a most grievous crime equal to the worst type of hostility. So our silence is equal, as it were, to the work of the beast, the work of the beast and their arms. In other words, Sister White is saying the work that Klaus Schwab is doing, Bill Gates is doing, trying to bring some of these smart cities, smart digital systems, as well as all these unsavory foods of Babylon, the cricket powder and whatever else that they want to force feed the world. It is as bad, what they're doing is as bad as our silence, and that's quite deep. So I urge us that we be not silent in such a time of great need in the work. That brings me to the next thing.
Wrestle with God for souls. If we have the interest that John Knox had when he pleaded before God for Scotland, we shall have success. He cried, "Give me Scotland, Lord, or I die." And when we take hold of the work and wrestle with God, saying, "I must have souls, I will never give up the struggle," we shall find that God will look upon our efforts with favor.
When there was a crisis of the gospel in Scotland, John Knox was moved in his heart, and he felt heavily in his heart. And he's quoted to have said, "Give me Scotland or I die." And it was a prayer for him. It was not driven out of arrogance, but out of humility and out of a deep need to do God's will. And he was asking for God to give him Scotland, to rescue it from the plague of sin, declension, and all the papal declension that was happening, even with the Bloody Mary, the Queen of Scots. So in his crisis, he sought God, and he said, "Give me Scotland or I die." And we are saying, "Give us Scotland or we die." Not out of arrogance, not out of any self-seeking ambitions or attitude, but for the work of glorifying God in Scotland to once again happen as during the time of John Knox and many other indeed pioneers. So as such, we are going to be asking for a lot of your financial support to make this happen. What is at stake? This time around, we have considered all options, and we found out that we will have to print, especially in this time of market volatility. It will be very difficult to supply what we are going to need. We have made some projections, and we believe we need 50,000 copies of The Great Controversy, which roughly would cost plus or minus 50,000 pounds. And we will also be needing 50,000 Ministry of Healing copies, which will cost plus or minus similar. So I'm saying that is we can't even look for quotations right now unless we've got the money, and the markets since COVID have been very volatile. So we can get a quotation now and come to printing. We may get a different price, but roughly this is what will be required. We also need the magazines that we have been using for a long time, which promote the health message, and they're fantastic magazines. The health magazines with 8 laws of health, and with some scientific graphics that demonstrate truthfulness of the gospel, and especially the Bible, when you look at even the principles in Genesis as it pertains to diet, but also even country living. This magazine helps convict hearts on the streets. We have seen the power that the magazine has, and we need 50,000 of this, because the reason why we need that is we work our books into perks, and some people may wonder why not give people randomly, but Sister White makes it very clear that the health message is the right hand of the gospel, and I found that all that she said has been true. For instance, when Brother Stephen Askell wrote his 2 books, one on Daniel and one on Revelation, Sister White's advice was for it to be bound into one book for the subject is one, but it didn't happen. And until now, we still have Haskell's Daniel book, as well as the Revelation one, the story of the Sea of Patmos. And it took me close to a decade to find out that he had written a second book, because I'd only read the one of them. But whereas when these books are put together, people can see clearly that the 3rd angel's message, the 3 angels' message, is associated with the health message. And this is why we've been emphasizing this, and it has been working wonders, and that's why we need to do that. Some people will say, you think that you are giving too much, but it is clear from the spirit of prophecy that we need to introduce both at the same time, for time is not on our side. And that's why we are putting these books together. So in all, we are going to be needing about 120,000 or so, plus or minus. And then on top of that, we are going to be needing quite a few vehicles, and accommodation, fuel, as well as Glasgow is introducing, I think, a low emission zone. I don't know what they've called it. Maybe ULAs, maybe ZES, maybe livable neighborhoods, or whatever they are calling them. Different names, it's all the same thing. That's the plan of the World Economic Forum and the Vatican, to create 15-minute cities, slavery for us, but it's the same thing. But we don't know whether we'll, I'm sure the costs are already there. And in all, we are projecting that we may need up to £150,000 or even more. We are not 100% sure yet, as we cannot verify some of the costs right now. Accommodation has gone bonkers. We've done a few projections. Some of the hotels for just 30 people over 2 weeks are charging something like 60, 50, 70. Very expensive. But such is the work of saving souls. It is a very expensive work. Even the work of the cross was expensive. Mr. White says the cost of the cross will not be fully realized until all those who are ransomed are gathered in heaven. For it cost heaven everything. Everything was on the line. Christ, his success or failure, God the Father had put everything on the line. And if Christ failed, it meant that the laws of the universe were no longer applicable, because the devil would have, the accuser of the brethren would have been vindicated. His accusations would have held water, and yet God went on to go and execute the plan of redemption, the plan of salvation, nonetheless. And he was victorious. So it is the most expensive thing that has ever been spent in the universe is the cross, because of the weight of what was on there. So what is 20,000? What is 150,000 when souls are at stake? Many of the people, many are going to a Christless grave without our intervention. But God has raised our church, the Seventh-day Adventist Church, for a purpose, and it is to preach the three angels' message. And if we don't, we are palpable, we are accountable before God for all the souls that the devil is destroying willy-nilly, left, right, and center. So this is the nature of the mission. I'd like to urge you at this point to dig deep into your pockets. Give your pennies, 10 pennies, where you can every to help. Hundreds of pounds, even thousands of pounds. And your donations will go a very long way to help us achieve this monumental work. You could even call it a Herculean task. The way you can donate is we are going to put the details in the video and in the video description. There is two accounts that you can use. We have done so a few times. There is the Loudcry account, also our supplier of books, and that's character building books. You can put these details, you can check out these details at the end of the video, maybe somewhere in the middle of the video as well. You can donate as much as God impresses you to donate. Partner with us and partner with Christ in this mission for it to be a success. And we are hoping that, like most of the other places that we have gone before, our second mission to Scotland will create the much needed even momentum by God's grace to keep this work, sustain it, and to expedite the second coming of Christ, that we may go home and rest. Thank you very much for all your help in anticipation. This money is needed as soon as yesterday, because as we are going to print, our lead times are going to be very unpredictable. The lead time to printing is obviously maybe anything up to two months. Giving actual definitive dates of this mission is going to be very difficult, as we will need to put a few things in place first before we can actually give the dates, but it will definitely be in the summer. So the sooner we get the money to print, the better. Otherwise, it would take forever, and we may not be able to meet those tight deadlines if the money doesn't come in time. So if the Lord is moving you, we are rather better to do that now rather than later, as if we do it later, the window to do it will be fast closing, and there is a lot of logistical things to put in place. All need to have been done at the same time. By the time we need to do that, we need to have booked extra vehicles that will be needed. we are calling upon all the brethren in the British Isles that we have worked with, and even those that we haven't worked with. And if you are seeing this for the first time and the Lord is moving you to come and join, we are calling upon the brethren to come and do common cause for the sake of the work in England and in Scotland, and maybe for the work in Scotland, as others have observed, to catch up and even maybe supersede some of the places where this work is also already going on. This mission is a tour of the whole of the country of Scotland. As far as we can envisage now, over a period of 2 weeks. So it will be a tour of Scotland. We'll have as many groups as God can afford to give us. And if you're feeling impressed, just enlist it with us, get in touch. And as the plans evolve and develop, we'll keep you posted. But also, when you deposit the funds, whether in the Loudcry account supplied below, or in the character building books, reference, in other words, your reference is the mission to Scotland, so that there is no confusion as to what the money is for. So references the money that you put in there to mission to Scotland. May God bless you, and may He replenish 1,000-fold where you are going to take this from. And come and join us. Let's finish the work. It's time to finish the work. It's time to give the world the loud cry of the third angel.